I'm in Tonopah, Nevada, doing some organizing work here. And for those who don't know, Tonopah is on the west side of the state, pretty close to the border with California. It's an old mining town. Right now, I'm in the old mine that's just on the east side of town, overlooking the city. There's actually old mine facilities and tailings piles interspersed with people's homes in the city itself. Tonopah is not a community that's in great shape. It's definitely paid the price for the legacy of mining. It's been a boom and bust town, and people generally here are really poor. They're not doing well. There is a lot of planned energy development coming to this region. Just over there, I'm not sure if you can see in this video, the reflection out there is the old Crescent Dunes concentrated solar power plant. I made a video about that about 4 years ago when I visited the site. That power plant is actually offline. It's been deactivated. It never functioned very well, and is a bit of a boondoggle. Quite a bit of public money and subsidies were wasted there. This area is also home to Nevada's lithium mining industry. The only currently active lithium mine in the United States is Silver Peak, which is just down this way over the mountains in Clayton Valley. In that same valley, there's a huge number of other proposed and planned lithium mines. It's unclear if they will move forward for one simple reason: water. There isn't enough of it, and the Albemarle Silver Peak mine that's already operating has drawn down groundwater in the aquifers dramatically, causing wells to go dry, and the whole ecosystem around the area to basically desiccate and become a total desert and die. They're pumping billions of gallons of water at that facility, and the impacts are pretty catastrophic. Under the new Western solar plan that BLM is proposing, the area around Tonopah would become home to possibly dozens of large solar energy projects. This is photovoltaic solar panels energy projects that would stretch out across all of these valleys around us, covering hundreds of square miles of this terrain out here. That project all those projects would be made possible through the GreenLink West, which is a major transmission line project that's been proposed for some years now and is in the permitting process. That transmission line would start down in the Las Vegas area, run through this corridor, and all the way up to Reno. And the main purpose of that facility would be to enable large-scale solar production in western Nevada, and to facilitate the delivery of that energy largely to industrial consumers, data centers near Reno, the tech industry, Tesla, Panasonic, Google, Amazon, these large facilities that demand massive amounts of energy and have hugely growing requirements as we see the ramping up of AI and more processing going into the cloud in terms of computing. So these projects would, by and large, all be a disaster for the planet, for the ecology. And Tonopah is a warning of this. Tonopah is, like I said, an old mining town down on its luck, and is paying the price in all kinds of different ways in terms of people's well-being, health, water quality, and the vibrancy of the community has been destroyed by essentially being dedicated to an unsustainable economy that flourished for a short generation and then collapsed. This land is also running out of water, and Nevada is the driest state in the country. So these issues are very important and very pertinent. Yesterday, there was a meeting here that I was a part of. It was a private, not public meeting, so I can't really speak to the details. But needless to say, there were quite a few people from across the region gathering to organize on these issues and coordinate some opposition to these projects. There are a lot of concerns with these projects and their impacts on threatened and endangered wildlife like desert tortoise, Mojave desert tortoise, rare cactus species, many other types of rare plants, and just in general, the ecology of these desert regions that is quite fragile. There, a lot of people don't know the importance of these areas, but there can be creosote bushes in the Mojave Desert that can be 10,000 years old. There can be old-growth sagebrush that lives for hundreds of years. And there can be these desert pavements, these biological soil crusts that are sort of a geobiochemical process sequestering carbon for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And people might look at that and just think, this isn't important. This is just a desert. There's nothing here. There's nothing worthwhile here. Some of these old mine facilities right here. Rock doves in there. So these issues are incredibly important. Then you've got the impacts on cultural sites, indigenous Native American cultural sites, which are very significant throughout this entire region. Different communities, tribal communities, have lived for well over 10,000 years. The numbers are still up for debate. A lot of the Paiute people say that they've been here since time immemorial. And the scientists who study these things keep pushing the dates back and back and back after many years of and decades, centuries of disrespecting the Paiute traditions that told them that they've been here a lot longer than that. So Nevada's ground zero for these issues, but they are affecting regions all over this country and around the world. We're seeing the boom of a new form of industrialism. And a lot of my work over the last 5 to 10 years has been focusing on this, because my prior work used to focus mainly on global warming in some ways, on fighting the fossil fuel industry. I still think that is incredibly important. I'm still involved in that work to some extent, and I give all my solidarity and support to the folks who are. But the thing is, there are a lot of people working on that, and there aren't very many people working on issues around renewables, so-called green technology, and the impacts that it has. Because people have been caught up in the rhetoric of global warming being an emergency, which it is, but this lie that technology can save us from the problems that were created by the last form of technology. This is only going to create more externalities, more destruction, more problems that communities will then have to be dealing with for generations if they can survive at all. So I have been advocating for many years, like I said, that we take a long, hard look at these projects and reject them, that we stand with the land, that we reject extractive industrial energy generation that depends on mining, depends on destroying mountains like this one, poisoning groundwater in places like this, and leaving generations-long legacies of destruction and poverty and pollution and health problems and illness. Because all of these technologies, solar, wind, concentrated solar power, the transmission lines themselves, these are all symptoms of a destructive industrial relationship with the planet. And a lot of people like to say things like, we can't go back to living simpler land-based ways of life. And I say, why not? Why can't we go back? Why can't we live in simpler land-based ways of life? Why can't we live in the ways that our ancestors, no matter where we came from, lived sustainably for tens of thousands of years on this planet? Why is that naive to say? Why isn't it considered naive to say that we can continue destroying the planet to generate abundant amounts of industrial electricity and energy and producing factory products and destroying habitats and watersheds and aquifers and air and soil and our relatives, the other living beings on this planet, and call that sustainable? Why isn't that considered naive and stupid? Because it frankly is. And the reality is that, yes, dramatic degrowth, relocalization, rejecting industrial civilization, these things are not popular right now. They're not politically feasible. But the physical laws of ecology are non-negotiable. So something's got to give here. And what is going to give eventually is human society. Our society, our ways will change one way or another, sooner or later. And the question is, are we going to do it deliberately? Are we going to deliberately, dramatically, and quickly ramp down industrial society and return to simpler land-based ways of life? Or are we going to continue pushing for this addiction to industrial energy, to modern techno-industrial civilization, and pay the price for it, and force those costs onto future generations, onto our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and so on and so on and so on, and to the other living beings on this planet, with no thought for their future? That's the path that we're on right now. That's the path that most of the mainstream environmental movement has been hoodwinked into. And I think it is an absolute catastrophe, a travesty, a scandal. And we should be outraged. We should be working together. We should be collaborating. We should be organizing. We should be taking action to make these changes happen in our society. It's going to take massive mobilization on a scale that we have never seen before in human history to make these transformations occur. And these are really generational long challenges. And I, for one, am absolutely disgusted at mainstream environmental organizations, the Democratic Party, and the broad majority of the liberal left in the United States that has taken this stance of protecting industrial civilization at any cost, maintaining a destructive system by trying to change out the fuel source that powers it, while sacrificing Paiute and Shoshone homelands, Hungana Manyawa homelands in Indonesia, the homelands of the Congolese people who are facing cobalt mining and so on. All of the communities that are on the front lines of mineral and energy extraction for this so-called new green economy are paying the price for this fantasy, for maintaining this fantasy of the modern high energy, high consumption way of life. We got to turn that around. We got to change it up. And we have to be honest about these things. We got to tell the truth. And that's a difficult thing to do, but there's no time to waste.